The Indian logistics industry. Now, just to give you a glimpse of the Indian logistics industry, the logistics industry of India is currently estimated to be around US dollars 160 billion. That's a big industry and it is growing on an exponential basis because of the various reasons. One big reason is e-commerce. Another reason is growth in manufacturing in India. Third reason is growth in trade, in global trade of India with other countries. The logistics industry is booming, and I'm sure you might also have thought of logistics industry before joining this course. I'm sure you have inclination towards logistics industry. That's why you're here, and you know the advantages of and the huge potential this industry has. Uh, that's why you have taken your career decision in the logistics industry. The Indian logistics sector is expected to grow at a rate of 8 to 10% over the medium term. According to global ranking of the World Bank, 2016 LPI, that is the Logistics Performance Index, India jumped to 35th rank in 2016 from 54th rank in 2014 in terms of overall logistics performance. So that's how India is moving. It jumped from 54th rank to 35th rank in within the span of 2 years only, and that's how we are growing into logistics. Now is a comparison of three countries, India, Germany, and Singapore, with respect to various logistics parameters. Uh, the when we compare or when we modelize all these parameters in one single parameter, which it is known as logistics performance index. But when we there are other factors like customs, infrastructure quality, logistics competence, international shipments, tracking and tracing, and timeliness. Then India is placed in a very good position with respect, in not a very good position with respect to other countries like Germany and Singapore. So that's the opportunity for us. We are in the right industry at the right place. There is a lot of scope of work to be done. Lot of opportunities are there, and I'm sure you will contribute to the logistics industry of the country. And the new ideas coming from your people like you will get us in a better position with respect to other parts of the world. So the inferences from these from this figure is efficiency of customs and border management clearance is 65 to 38%. Quality of trade and transport infrastructure is also given here. Now, the root cause impacting logistics performance. Why we have this problem in India? Why the logistics? We are not we are in not so good position with respect to other countries like Singapore and Germany, as we have seen in the previous slide. There is unfavorable intermodal mix, higher percentage of road-based freight movement leading to higher cost and emissions. So, uh, road transport, as we have seen in introduction to rail transport, is not the preferred mode of transport. It is not the most fuel efficient mode of transport. But unfortunately, we are more dependent on road transport in India. That's why we have high cost of movement, and emissions are also high. We are doing more pollution, and we are spending more money to move a unit of goods from one place to another with respect to other developed countries like Germany and Singapore or US for that matter. Inefficient fleet mix, unorganized and fragmented nature of transports. So in India, you might have seen that the trucks are overloaded, the trucks are oversized, which is illegal. There are some set dimensions by the government which are set, for the size of trucks, but the trucks are illegally made to accommodate more cargo. They're overloaded. There is a lot of there is some amount of corruption also. There are reports which proves that due to the corruption, this inefficiency comes into the picture. That's why it is impacting the logistics performance, the efficiency in the performance also. Underdeveloped transport infrastructure. We are all aware about the, the situation of transport infrastructure, the situation of roads in our country, though it is being made now on a large scale, but still we lack the good infrastructure in all parts of the country, which is required for an efficient logistics. Material handling infrastructure. We have on manual goods, we might have seen, we might have observed this in sometimes that during loading and unloading, manual intervention is more in India, whereas in other parts of world it is more automatic through machines. Manual intervention is less, so it becomes when machines are involved, the system becomes more efficient and cost effective, and the goods are less prone to damage. And the procedural complexities. Complexity in documentation and procedures for interstate movement, delays in custom clearance at ports driven by complex documentation requirement. This is being addressed now by the government, or everything is being digitalized, but there is still a lot of scope of improvement. Now comes the concept of multimodal and intermodal transport. Multimodal transport is defined as the transport of goods by at least two different transport modes. Uh, Here we are talking about the subject topic, which is multimodal and intermodal transport. What do you mean by multimodal? As the name suggests, multimodal means the transport of goods by at least two different transport modes. So, for example, if you're moving, we are talking here about the passenger services. If you're moving from Delhi to any hill station, or to any hotel at the hill station in down south, maybe Ooty or Cool. So you might have to take a taxi from your home to get to the airport. From the airport, you need to take uh, the flight from Delhi to Chennai or Delhi to Bangalore. And then from the airport at Bangalore or Chennai, you need to take another cab or a car, which is a road mode of transport, to move from that airport to your hotel location. That is called a multimodal transport, where you use more than one mode of transport to move goods or passengers from one place to another. Whereas intermodal transport is a subset of multimodal transport. The European Commission defines the transport of goods in one and the same load unit by various transport modes, whereby a change in the load does not entail a transfer of transported goods themselves. So, did you get some idea about what intermodal is and what is the difference between multimodal and intermodal? Intermodal is something where you do not move or shift the cargo. You shift the carriage of the carriage where the cargo is placed. So, for example, in case of container, when we compare the containerization, why container was better than early way of shipping goods, because in early way of in the historic perspective, we used to move the cargo from one mode to another, but in containerization we never touched the cargo. We shift the container which was containing the cargo. So that is intermodal. That means that is a standard equipment where the cargo is stuffed and that is being moved, that is being handled from one for moving the goods from one mode to another. So intermodal means a standardized goods carrier which is holding the goods and is moved from one place to another, for end-to-end transportation. You can these lines for a better understanding. I'll read it out for you. The European Commission defines the intermodal transport as the transport of goods in one and the same load unit by various transport modes, whereby a change in load unit does not entail a transfer of the transported goods themselves. The unit load can be either a vehicle or an intermodal transport unit. Intermodal transport was defined by United Nations Economic Commission for Europe as a movement of goods in one and the same loading unit or road vehicle, which uses successively two or more modes of transport without handling the goods themselves. in changing modes. Hence, intermodality was defined as a system of transport whereby two or more modes of transport are used to transport the same loading unit or truck in an integrated manner without loading or unloading in a transport chain. I hope you got this concept right. What is the multimodal and intermodal? Intermodal is not competing with multimodal. Intermodal is a part of multimodal. It is a subset of multimodal. Whereas in multimodal, you may shift the cargo or you may shift the cargo carrier or the container. So when you shift the container from one mode to another, which is carrying the cargo, that is called intermodal. When you shift the cargo, that is a typical multimodal mode. Then there are a few regulatory structures and models in multimodal logistics. There is the few rules and guidelines which are there published by our government, our central government in India. That is the Multimodal Transportation of Goods Act 1993 and Multimodal Transport Goods Rules. Models of multimodal logistics parks is through public-private partnerships. There is a contribution of there is a participation of public and private companies in development of multimodal logistics in India, and nodal agency as the master developer. So there can be some institutions or some agency which is a representative of either central government or state government for development of multimodal logistics infrastructure. Let us start discussing the types of multimodal terminals. So multimodal terminal can be of any type, many types, because wherever there are two modes of transports interfacing with each other, that becomes a multimodal terminal. For example, air and road terminal. So any airport is also a multimodal terminal because you go there by road means, by car or taxi, and then you use air travel or flights for further movement. Then there are railway stations. So similarly, for a railway station, you go to a railway station through a taxi or a public transport mode or your own car, and then you take the trains from there on. Likewise for the freight movement also. Air, road, rail terminals, there are some airports which have rail facility also, like in Delhi, we have metro station, in Bangalore, we have metro station. Sea, road and rail terminal, all the seaports are multimodal terminal because there are rail facilities inside the sea terminals also. Then the inland waterway road terminals. Inland waterway is still under development in the country. There are only a handful of maybe two or three inland waterway ports inside the country which are operating. That not to in a very very efficient manner on full capacity. So we are still to see the evolution of inland waterway terminals inside the country. Now is the integration. So what kind of an integration is needed? What are the types of integration between the modes of transport to have intermodality? There is physical integration in terms of integrating transport mode like rail, buses, and paratransit, etc., at the intermediate points or at the terminal with interchange facilities so that different modes can be switched over as per requirement and convenience. So you need an interchange facility like material handling goods which are used in moving goods from one mode to another. We will see the equipments which are being used at the multimodal terminals for movement of cargo or changing the uh, cargo's transport mode from rail to road or sea and vice versa. Then is institutional integration, an arrangement which can be established among policies of different operating agencies like railways, bus authority, transport unions, etc., so that they can work in unison. So it is based on the policy aspect, like we have seen in earlier slide on the Multimodal Transportation Act. So that was regulatory legislation which was brought out by the Indian government to support development of multimodal transportation in India. Then is the operational integration, which is related in terms of scheduling and routing of different modes. So whenever you go from one place, maybe from India to a lot to US, you might not have a direct flight and you need to transship. You need to have a chain to catch another flight from in between any of the airport, maybe Dubai or Europe. So that is called the operational integration, where the service provider ensures that there is timely availability of service for when you disembark at Dubai or London, for that matter, to go to US. So there is a connection flight available. That is called the operational integration. Important actors in transport services integration, the government and other administrative authorities, public transport operators, tourism sector, intermediaries, and existing and potential end users. Integrated approach. What is that? That is intermodality, movement between the modes of transport, where, as we have discussed before. Interoperability. Interoperability means that the for that, for example, if you are moving, if you're traveling from one place to another, but when you move from uh, uh, Delhi to Dubai, you first have to catch a flight from Delhi to Mumbai and then from Mumbai to Delhi. But from Mumbai to Delhi, you don't have a flight and you have a vessel to catch. Maybe you need to hop on a sea vessel, and that sea vessel is not a passenger vessel. That is a cargo vessel. So the interoperability, there is a service available, but the interoperability is not there. The service is not suitable for passengers. So there is no means. So there is an approach which is needed for interoperability, just to make sure the seamless connection and the seamless transport is available from the points of origin and points of destination. Information services, and this is the time of information. We are talking IT everywhere, and information is really important when moving in multimodal transportation system. Booking, ticketing, and payment systems. You need to have online systems for booking your freight, booking the passenger movement through ticketing and the payment gateways. Handling and tracking of passenger luggage, congestion, overcrowding, and peak management, safety and security. So, what is this? So there are multimodal transport operators now. There are companies which act as multimodal transport operators. What are their functions? So they are acting as a nodal point where all these transport modes are, being coordinated for an effective, seamless, end-to-end transportation solution to the customer. So, for example, if we talk about uh, any airline, I'm taking more examples from the passenger side because you might not have experienced the freight movement as of now. Uh, similarly, as we talk of any example in passenger, there are services available for freight movement also. So, in passenger, if you're booking a ticket, an online flight ticket or maybe a train ticket, then there is an option from the same service provider to provide a cab service for you, to pick you up from your home or hotel and to drop you at your home or hotel. So that is called a multimodal transport operator. So maybe if you're booking your flight tickets through an airline website, the same airline can offer you a cab service for pickup and delivery at for end-to-end transportation. So that becomes a multimodal transport operator. So likewise in freight also, there is multimodal transport operators which act as end-to-end solution provider for movement of freight. Principal issues in multimodal development. There are few issues which are considered significant for development of multimodal transportation. The first one is related to infrastructure development. The second one is related to regulatory reforms, and the third one is related to infrastructure and technology. Investment in The first one is infrastructure development. Containerization is, we have seen containerization in international trade, but let me tell you that in India, for domestic movement, there is still not much containerization which has happened. So, but in other parts of world, like in US, which is dominating and which is pioneering this concept, there is a lot of containerization in domestic movement, which has its own benefits. So there is containerization needed in India also for domestic movement of goods. Dry ports. Dry ports were the concept came in India in 2000s. Right now we are having a lot of public-private partnership in development of dry ports in India, and we really see a good upsurge in dry port development. But we still need to see technology development in dry ports. Port sector, we have the government is driving the development of infrastructure at ports, our seaports, under the Sagarmala project. We will cover this topic in more detail in further subjects. Inland waterway, as I told you earlier, also, inland waterway is uh, you know uh, movement of goods or passengers in inland location through river channels. And this industry is not so developed in India the way it is developed in Europe, particularly. The government has one nodal agency, which takes care of development of inland waterways, and they have identified some sections, on Ganga River and Brahmaputra River, and other big rivers of India to develop inland waterway transportation. Road transportation, as we all know, and we have discussed it also, that road transportation needs good road infrastructure, which is needed. We have seen really good quality highways in India, and there is still a way uh, to go ahead. I mean, there's a lot of scope in further development of road infrastructure. Then is the dedicated freight corridor. These are the freight corridors for train movement, for dedicated for freight trains. We have covered this in our sessions in inland introduction to rail transport also. We will further talk about this. The regulatory reforms. Multimodal Transport Act. This act was introduced in 1993, I think 2003 or 1993 in India, which led to the development of multimodal transport operators in India. There are private freight terminal policy which was introduced by Indian Railways, just to make sure that there is private participation in development of rail freight terminals, which will help in catering to the freight movement through trains, through rail mode. Then is the coastal shipping policy. Coastal shipping means the domestic cargo movement, or the movement cargo which is moved inside the country from one city to another city through the coast, through the water coast, sea coast of India. So we have good coastal shipping companies right now operating. Some of them are government owned, some of them are privately owned. The shipping starts with the coast starts from Gujarat and it goes up till Calcutta. And there are a lot of companies now operating the shipping service from Gujarat to Calcutta through the sea coast of India. Cabotage policy is one important regulation in development of multimodal transportation. Cabotage is actually when you use the export shipping container in movement of domestic goods. So that is called the cabotage. There can be imbalance because India is a net import country. We import more and we export less. So the shipping containers, there is a trade imbalance and imbalance in movement of shipping containers, loaded shipping containers also. So there are cases, and that is a day-to-day practice that when we import stuffed containers or loaded containers, we in Delhi from Mundra port or from any Gujarat port or from any Mumbai-based port. So that container, we take out the goods from that container, but the shipping company may not have an export customer who needs those containers. So these containers are brought back to the seaport in an empty condition, which is a net loss to the shipping company. So just to minimize this loss for the shipping company, what exactly happens is government has now allowed the cabotage policy where those containers can be used for stuffing domestic cargo for movement from Delhi to Mumbai, and in Mumbai the cargo is de-stuffed from the container, and then it gets loaded to the on the shipping vessel. Then is the policy to authorize MTOs. Again, this is related to multimodal transport operator and the FDI. Earlier, the foreign direct investment was not permitted in this sector, but now the government is becoming more lenient, more frank, more aligned towards more foreign direct investment, and it is really helping the industry to grow. Investment in technology, uh, we have new technologies which are coming up as solutions to uh, mm, as a solution to make the multimodal transportation more efficient and faster. That is cloud computing, global positioning system, RFID technology, ERP, and mobile technology, which is helping in multimodal transportation. So, intermodal development in India, we will have a quick overview of intermodal development in India. Indian Railways' strategic initiative to containerize cargo transport put India on the multimodal map for the first time in 1966. So, containerized cargo movement in India started in year 1966. Given the continental distances in India, rail transport could be the cheaper option for all cargo over medium and long distances, especially if the cost of intermodal transfers could be reduced. So the containerized multimodal door-to-door transport provided the ideal solution to this problem, because India is, as we said, as we discussed, that India is a vast country with all the terrains. Multimodal scene was envisioned as a ideal solution to the geography of India, the transport problems of India. And then it was this idea that saw that Indian Railways entering the market for moving door-to-door domestic cargo in special uh, containers starting in 1966. So Indian Railways started the movement of containers in 1966 for domestic movement from one place to another within the country. Evolution of intermodal transport industry in India. Though the first ISO marine container, that is the export import container, had been handled in India at Cochin in 1973. It was in 1981 that the first ISO container was moved inland by the Indian Railways. So by 1973, the shipping containers were limited to seaports only. They were not being moved to inland location. But in 1981, the first ISO container was moved. Of ISO means EXIM container, export or import container, was moved inland by Indian Railways to India's first ICD at Bangalore. This picture you are seeing is actual picture of ICD Bangalore, that is which is the oldest ICD or inland container depot of the country. It started in 1981, where the first container was moved from port of Kochi to Bangalore through Indian Railways. Evolution of intermodal transport. So expansion of the network to 7 ICDs by 1988 saw increase in handling of containers. So the first ICD, which was started in 1981, grew to a network of 7 ICDs by 1988. And there was a flourishing movement of containers also, as there was a trend towards containerization in world economy, and India was also following the trend. And the network was, was developed multifold for within a span of 7 years. So ICDs, which was first introduced in 1981, grew to 7 ICDs in 1988. Then came the first organization or subsidiary for movement of these containers in inland location from seaport locations. Container Corporation of India was incorporated in March 1988 under the Companies Act and commenced operation from November 1989, taking over the existing network of 7 ICDs from the railway network. From its humble beginning, it is now an undisputed market leader, having the largest network of 60 ICDs in India. In addition to providing inland transport by rail for containers, it has also expanded to cover management of ports, air cargo complexes, and established cold chains. It has and will continue to play the role of promoting containerization in India by virtue of its modern rail fleet, customer-friendly commercial practices, and extensively used IT. The company developed multimodal logistics support for India's international and domestic containerization and trade. Though rail is the mainstay of our transportation plan, road services and also provided to cater to the need to door-to-door services. This is about Concord. So it started in operations. Its operations in 1988, where railways handed over all the ICDs it controlled to this company, and now it has grown to one of the biggest networks of 60 ICDs operating across the country. Introduction of private container train operators. In January 2006, Minister of Railways announced its new container train policy, wherein it allowed private operators to obtain licenses for operating container trains on Indian Railways network. In 2006, Indian Railways or the Ministry of Railways announced uh, the allowance of private participation in container train operations. The policy was conceived with a view to attracting a greater share of container traffic for railways and for introducing competition in rail freight services. Two earlier initiatives in 1994 and 2004 to allow private operators for container train operations had failed primarily due to lack of clarity on the role of Concur with the other operators. India's containerized cargo was mostly export-import and rail share was only 30%. As I told you that initially, right now also in India, there is very less containerization in domestic traffic. The containerized movement is dominated by export or import containers. Concor was the monopoly operator of the container trains at the time of this announcement. That the Concor was the only company that was owned by the central government. And after this policy, the private train operators came into the picture. Current landscape, according to data maintained by Department of Commerce, there are 129 ICDs operational as of March 2017. Of these, Maharashtra has the maximum number of ICDs, followed by Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, and Haryana. ICD Tughlakabad in Delhi NCR region is the largest ICD in the country, spread over 44 hectares of land. It is also considered the largest ICD of the Asia. It was holding that position for some time. Now there is some ICD in China, which is considered the largest ICD. There were no ICDs in the northernmost state of Jammu and Kashmir and only one in Assam among all northeast states. There are about 160 CFSs in the country right now operational. Functions of intermodal terminal: receipt and dispatch of delivery of goods, stuffing and stripping of containers, transit operations by rail, road, and to from the serving ports, custom clearance, consolidation and desegregation of LCL cargo. Consolidation means if as an exporter or importer, you might not have a big quantity of cargo which is suitable for complete stuffing for complete utilization of a 20 feet or 40 feet container, then and you might have a smaller size of cargo, maybe a parcel, a small, maybe 1 meter size, or maybe 50 or 100 kgs of cargo. Then there are agents which accept such cargoes from various customers, and they make containers. They put the cargo for one particular location in one container, and they move it. So that is called consolidation of cargo or deconsolidation of cargo. So ICDs are also used for temporary storage of cargo and containers, and they are also used for maintenance and repair of containers. Distinction between ICD and CFS. ICD and CFS offer services for containerization of freight bulk cargo and vice versa. Most ICDs are connected by rail to the respective gateway port or to another ICD, and this is a key difference between ICD and CFS. So this brings you to the distinction between ICD and CFS. CFSs are additional infrastructure just in available just next to the ICDs or seaports to make sure that there is no space constraint, infrastructure constraint for that particular port or ICD. Major container hubs in India. This is northern market, which includes Delhi, NCR, and Ludhiana. Then is the western, where Ahmedabad and Mumbai ports are there. Then the southern area, which has Chennai, Bangalore, Cochin area, and the northeast, where Guwahati is one. Geographical distribution of ICDs India. You can see, each state-wise number of ICDs. So for example, in Maharashtra, there are 13 ICDs available right now. In Gujarat, there are 8 ICDs available, and so on and so forth. Spatial arrangement of ICDs in Delhi NCR region. There are many ICDs in Delhi NCR available right now, operational right now. Most of them privately owned. The only one which is owned by Concor is ICD TKD, which is here. Rest of these ICDs are privately owned and operated. So this is the monthly average throughput. Throughput means the number of containers handled at on a monthly basis. We can see that it is the Concor's Tughlakabad ICD is leader player, followed by there is another company called GRFL, which has its ICD in Ghadi Harsuru. Ghadi Harsuru is a place in Gurgaon. So that is the second largest ICD, and then there is one in Sonipat, Dadri, Faridabad, Pyala is in Palwal, and then is the Panipat area. Capacities. This is a small reference of capacities of Delhi NCR ICDs. What we have. So the capacity is defined in terms of the total plot area, the total transit warehouse area, the area of the warehouse inside that ICD. Handling lines means the number of rail tracks inside that ICD. We can see ICD TKD has 4, but ICD Dadri has the maximum number of railway tracks. So that means more the number of railway tracks, more is the capacity to handle cargo at a particular ICD. Ground slots are the area where the defined for keeping the containers. So each ICD might have different number of container keeping capacity. We can see here that ICD partly has the largest number of ground slots, followed by ICD Sonipat, and yard equipments. Yard equipments are door equipments which are used for handling of containers inside the ICD. Key facilities in a multimodal logistics park. These are the facilities which are provided for movement of goods and containers. Dry cargo means bulk cargo which is not containerized, and there is another section for containerized cargo. And these are the respective facilities. So we can see that there are common facilities like parking, petrol, diesel area, pumps, repair shops, engineering facilities, power, water supply, drainage, approach road from the highway, weighbridge facility. Weighbridges are the weighing scales which weigh the complete truck or complete container. and security services. Container operator policy framework. So, as we saw in earlier slides, that in the Minister of Railways announced a private container train operations policy in 2005. Uh, there were four categories in which the private parties, private companies can participate in this policy. They have to pay a one-time registration fees to Ministry of Railways to buy a license. And once that license is obtained, they can operate the trains. They can run their own trains on the Indian Railway network. So category one involved investment of registration fees of 50 crores. Category 2, 3, and 4 involved payment of registration fee of 10 crores each. But category 2, 3, and 4 was differentiated with respect to the corridors or the areas where they were allowed to operate. Profile of entrants. So these are the companies who opted for container train operator license. There were shipping companies who bought this license. There were container terminal companies who bought this license. Commodity so Cripco is the one company who is into fertilizers manufacturing. They also bought this license for being a container train operator. Then there were CFS operators, services company, and other type of companies. So in total, 15 companies opted to buy for container train operators license in India. Challenges in container transportation by rail: capacity constraints, because we have limited capacity. The capacity is older. We have older infrastructure, so capacity is really a challenge. Inadequate port rail connectivity. Our ports are having very old infrastructure with respect to railways, so that becomes a challenge. Capacity constraints at port. Insufficient terminals and dry ports. Earlier, there were very less dry ports and dry terminals, but now with private participation coming in, the number of dry ports and terminals are increasing. Technical constraints like train length and capacity. So initially our trains were, right now the trains have a definite size, length defined by the Indian Railways, but with coming in of dedicated freight corridors, the train capacities and lengths are going to increase by 3 times. Initiatives for intermodal development in rail. So there are few initiatives which the government has taken for development of intermodal. One is the introduction of DFCCIL, that is the dedicated freight corridor. We have discussed it in other parts. Prioritization of rail port connectivity projects. So government is focusing on prioritization the rail connectivity of our ports. Development of terminals and logistics park. As I've said, that government is focused on private participation. They are enabling the private participation for development of terminals and logistics park. Container train operations by private operators. As we have seen that government opened up this sector for private participation by payment of a registration fee, and there are now more than 10 private container train operators in India. Then is the double stack and triple stack container operations, which is now being allowed. In some sections of Indian Railways, we have double stack trains running already. And PPP in rail infrastructure projects. Apart from buying in the licenses to operate a train, a private company can now also participate in development of rail infrastructure in the country. And that is all about the first session of multimodal transportation. We will cover some other some more practical aspects of multimodal transportation in our another session. I hope this session brings in fresh knowledge to you and makes you excited about the topic of multimodal transportation. Thank you guys. See you in another session. Bye bye.